robin builds her nest from the mud and the snow, with a breast red as morning and a song soft and clear. She sings to her young ones, I'm right here, I'm right here. Little wings of wonder, little hearts yet to fly. Mother birds are watching underneath the white sky. Every feather she gives you was laid down with love. You are held, little one, by the warmth from above.
You know, there is a very specific sound you have heard in, well, almost every single Hollywood movie that features a soaring bird of prey.
Oh, yeah.
It's this iconic, piercing, triumphant scream. You know the one? You're sitting in the theater, you see a bald eagle majestically gliding over a snow-capped mountain peak, and then cue the sound effect.
Right. It has basically become the ultimate audio shorthand for, like, wildness or freedom in American cinema.
Exactly. But here is the massive twist to that cinematic moment. It's a total lie.
Yeah, complete fabrication.
Right. No matter what majestic, glamorous bird is actually on the screen, that piercing scream almost always belongs to the red-tailed hawk.
The Buteo-Jambi-census, to be exact.
Yeah, and uncovering the truth behind that sound really brings us to the mission of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We're looking at excerpts from this really eye-opening source material. Chapter 6, The Red-Tailed Hawk, A Mother's Lesson in Patience and Precision.
It's a great piece.
It really is.
Yeah.
Our goal today is to look right past those so-called glamour birds, you know, the eagles, the snowy owls, the falcons, and uncover the hyper-competent, utterly patient mastery of the hawk that is probably sitting on a highway utility pole right outside your window as you listen to this.
Yeah, and what stands out immediately in the text is how our human perception is totally blinded by familiarity.
Oh, for sure.
Because the red-tailed hawk is the most common and widespread hawk in North America. I mean, they thrive everywhere, from the freezing Alaskan boreal forests down to the blistering scrublands of the Sonoran Desert.
They even nest in the glass and steel canyons of Manhattan. I mean, the source mentions that famous pair, Pale Male and Lola.
Oh, right, the Fifth Avenue ones.
Yeah, they actually raised their young on a building ledge, while thousands of New Yorkers just stood on the sidewalks and watched in awe.
It's incredible, but because they are so ubiquitous to most of us, they just get treated as background scenery.
Visual furniture.
Exactly, visual furniture. Casual observers ignore them precisely because they are always there. But if we actually pay attention, if we look closely at how they operate, we find an absolute masterclass in survival, biomechanics, and, well, parenting.
And because they're everywhere, we really have to ask how they manage to survive everywhere, right?
Right.
To understand how this single species basically conquered the entire North American continent, we have to look at how they fuel themselves. So let's talk about their diet.
Yeah, so red-tailed hawks are the ultimate generalists. Unlike highly specialized hunters that rely entirely on, one specific type of prey to survive, the red-tail has incredible dietary resilience. They eat mice, voles, rats, rabbits, ground squirrels.
Just whatever's around?
Pretty much. But they will also happily take snakes, lizards, smaller birds, and even scavenge carrion if the opportunity presents itself.
Okay, I have to push back on this idea of being a generalist as a positive thing, though.
Oh, why is that?
Because when I hear generalist, I immediately think of those massive highway diners that have, like, a 15-page menu.
Oh, no.
You know the ones? They serve pancakes, sushi, tacos, roast beef. And because they try to do absolutely everything, nothing on the menu is actually good.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Right. So does lacking a strict specialty make these hawks, well, clumsy? Are they essentially the mediocre roadside diner of the raptor world?
I see where you're going, but we need to look at it from an evolutionary angle. Their specialty is their adaptability.
Okay.
Imagine you're a specialist raptor, say an osprey that only eats fish, or a hawk that only eats a specific type of vole.
Right.
If your primary prey population crashes due to disease or bad weather for a single season, you are facing a massive nesting emergency. You might starve, and your chicks will definitely starve.
Yeah, you're completely out of luck. Your one menu item is sold out.
Exactly. But if you're a red-tailed hawk and the local vole population suddenly crashes, you just pivot to hunting snakes or ground squirrels.
It's a biological safety net.
A huge one. And this highly pragmatic, energy-saving approach extends perfectly to their hunting style, too. They utilize a remarkably patient Persian weight strategy.
Oh, so that's the classic dark silhouette sitting on the utility pole at the edge of the cornfield.
Right. They find an elevated vantage point with clear sight lines, and they just sit and watch.
Just totally still.
Completely motionless for 20-30 minutes at a stretch. They actively avoid what ornithologists call quartering flights, which is that exhausting, energy-draining process of flying back and forth over a field over and over again, like a lawnmower looking for a meal.
Well, that makes total sense. I mean, why burn the calories if you don't have to?
Exactly the point. They wait for movement below, and then they execute a short, highly efficient stoop, which is a high-speed, targeted aerodynamic dive straight to the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, they have optimized their entire existence for reliability over spectacle.
Optimized for reliability over spectacle. That's a great way to put it. And you see that exact same quiet reliability in their mating habits, too.
You really do.
The text points out that the female is noticeably larger, about 25% heavier than the male, with a wingspan that can reach up to, like, 52 inches.
Right, and female raptors being larger is standard across many species, but what is truly unique here is their dynamic as a pair. If you observe a great horned owl pair in late winter, their vocal exchanges are incredibly loud. They carry this charged, frantic quality, like an active, intense negotiation of their bond.
Very dramatic.
Very. But a red-tailed pair operates completely differently. If you see them on a perch together in late February, they have this incredibly quiet, settled partnership.
Yeah.
It doesn't require constant, noisy re-ratification. They return to the exact same territory year after year. Their behavioral synchrony is absolute, from timing their incubation shifts to joint surveillance against intruders.
It's the product of years of accumulated experience with a specific partner in a specific place.
Exactly.
And because their adaptable diet means they don't have to migrate thousands of miles to chase a specific dwindling food source, they can afford to stay put all year. And staying in one territory permanently completely changes how you approach real estate, which gets us to the sheer physical labor of building their nest.
Yeah, they start this construction or renovation in late winter, and their indifference to aesthetic considerations is a huge part of their survival strategy.
The nest building details in the source are mind-blowing. I mean, first, they favor tall trees, cottonwoods, sycamores, oaks, but specifically at the edge of woodlands.
Right, they want those clear sight lines we talked about for hunting.
Exactly. But if there are no trees available, they don't care at all. They will use transmission towers, billboard supports, or HVAC equipment on city rooftops.
It's a purely functional structure, and because they return to the exact same spot for a decade or more, they just keep adding to it.
It's like buying a modest starter home, and then every single spring you just build a massive new extension until suddenly you were living in a mansion.
Yeah, a structural record of their partnership. These nests can grow to rival small eagle eyries, 3 to 4 feet across, and equally deep.
That is massive.
And the outer walls are made of thick, heavy sticks, often an inch or more in diameter.
And the female is the primary interior designer here, right?
She is.
The source describes her aggressively arranging the sticks, but it's not just dropping them in a pile. She uses a very specific rotational pressing motion, like a common robin building a nest, but scaled up 50 times larger.
Yeah, and she uses that rotational pressing motion because she is essentially weaving a lock.
Wow.
By twisting the heavy sticks together, the friction holds them tightly enough to withstand hurricane-force winds and heavy spring snowstorms. It is a serious architectural feat.
It really is.
But there is a very specific, almost bizarre detail in their nest maintenance that researchers find truly intriguing.
Oh, the greenery mystery.
Yes.
So you have this massive pile of dead, dry sticks. But throughout the entire nesting season, the hawks constantly weave fresh, live green sprigs like pine or cedar needles into the rim of the nest. And when those sprigs dry out and die a few days later, the hawks purposely replace them with new, fresh ones. Why? They certainly aren't eating it.
No, definitely not eating it. Biologists have a few working theories on this behavior, which is actually shared with eagles and some other raptors.
Okay.
The most prominent theory is that the fresh plant material acts as a chemical pest control.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, the natural compounds in live pine or cedar leaves likely suppress ectoparasites, acting as a natural bug repellent for the vulnerable chicks.
Imagine you are sitting in a giant, densely packed stick bowl for a month. You'd definitely want some fresh pine in there to keep the bugs away, too.
Absolutely. Other theories suggest it helps regulate the humidity within the nest's microclimate, preventing the eggs from drying out.
Oh, interesting.
Or it might serve as a visual signal to other passing birds that the territory is actively occupied and defended.
Like a do not disturb sign.
Exactly. But whatever the evolutionary reason, it provides an incredibly practical tip for anyone listening.
Oh, yeah, sure that.
If you are out walking in late March and you look up and see a large stick platform with fresh green sprigs tucked into the rim, you are looking at a 100% active, occupied nest.
I love that. So the stage is completely set. The starter home is a mansion. The fresh greenery is woven into the rim. The lock is woven tight against the wind. All of this preparation is just the prerequisite for the real challenge.
Keeping the next generation alive.
Exactly, the incubation phase. The female lays a clutch of 1 to 5 eggs, though usually it's 2 or 3. They are pale bluish white, smaller than an eagle's, but very large for a hawk. And they incubate them for roughly a month, like 28 to 35 days.
And they share the load. The female does about 70% of the sitting, but the shifts change with that same quiet efficiency we talked about earlier.
Right.
No dramatic ceremonies or loud calls, just a quiet arrival by the male, a quick stretch by the female, and a seamless swap.
But the timing of when they start that incubation process is the crucial mechanism here, right?
It is. They begin sitting to warm the eggs the moment the very first egg is laid.
Okay, wait, I have to stop and ask about this. Because if she starts sitting immediately, the eggs are going to hatch days apart.
Yes, they will.
So the first egg gets a massive head start. You end up with one chick that is huge and strong, and another chick that hatches 3 days later that is tiny and weak.
Right.
Doesn't that just guarantee the youngest gets totally bullied or starves?
Yeah.
It feels like terrible accidental parenting.
It feels harsh from our human perspective, absolutely. But it is not an accident. It is a cold, perfectly calculated evolutionary insurance policy.
How so?
Think of it as a lifeboat scenario. These birds are totally dependent on the local prey population. In a year of abundance, there is plenty of food to go around, the mother feeds everyone, and all the chicks might survive.
Okay.
But in a year where a late blizzard hits and food is incredibly scarce,
If you split a tiny amount of food equally, everyone in the lifeboat starves.
that's the cold math of it. The size hierarchy ensures that the eldest, strongest chick gets whatever limited food is available. It guarantees that at least one healthy chick survives to carry on the genes. It's an adaptation for unpredictable, unforgiving environments.
Brutal, but logically bulletproof.
Yeah.
So the chicks hatch. They arrive covered in this fluffy white down, and for the first 10 days, the female barely leaves the nest,
Yeah, she broods them almost continuously just to keep them warm.
which creates a very strict division of labor. The male is out doing all the heavy hunting. He executes the stoops, catches the prey, a mouse, a small snake, and delivers it to the edge of the nest.
But there's a major physiological bottleneck in the process at this stage.
The chick's bills.
Exactly.
They have these little hooked raptor bills, but they are incredibly weak. They couldn't rip open a mouse if they tried.
So the mother must process all the food. She patiently takes the prey the male delivers and uses her own razor-sharp beak to tear it into tiny, perfectly sized morsels.
Piece by piece.
Right. She acts as the vital processor in the food pipeline from the field to the nestling's throat. For weeks, she is hand-feeding them piece by microscopic piece.
It is an incredible display of patience. You'd almost think she's going to keep spoon-feeding them until the day they fly.
You would.
But a mother cannot do that forever if she wants them to actually survive in the wild. Around week 5, her parenting style radically, drastically changes.
It is a remarkable behavioral shift, and one that researchers using Nest cameras study very closely.
Let's set the timeline for you listening. By weeks 3 and 4, the chicks are growing those darker, structured contour feathers.
Right.
They can finally regulate their own body temperature, so the mom doesn't need to sit on them constantly, which is a relief because their appetites are exploding, and she needs to start hunting with the male just to keep up with the grocery bill.
The sheer volume of prey required to sustain growing raptors is immense. They are consuming an enormous amount of calories to fuel that rapid feather and muscle growth.
So both parents are hunting. But then, at weeks 5 and 6, she does something fascinating. she flies back to the nest with a fresh catch. But instead of patiently tearing it into tiny bites like she's done hundreds of times,
She just drops the whole intact carcass in the nest,
yes,
steps back, and literally just watches them.
it is the ultimate tough love.
It really is. She delivers it whole and expects them to figure out the mechanics of eating it themselves.
If you're listening to this and you've ever tried to teach a teenager to drive, you know how hard it is to just watch them stall out.
Oh, yeah.
It's like tossing a 16-year-old the keys to a manual transmission car, giving them absolutely zero instructions, sitting in the passenger seat and just watching them grind the gears. It is a deliberate education through immense frustration.
And that frustration is structurally necessary. The source highlights how crucial this failure is for their physical development. At first, the chicks are terrible at it. They mantle over the prey, which means spreading their wings wide to hide it from their siblings. They wrestle with it, they tug at it from all the wrong angles. There is very little actual eating happening at first.
Just a lot of confused, angry flapping and dragging a dead mouse around a stick bowl.
Exactly. But every single failed attempt, every awkward pull is actively strengthening vital neural and physical pathways.
Building the foundation.
Right. The specific muscles required to pin down a struggling prey animal with a talon and simultaneously pull upward with a beak need to be developed and refined.
Right.
Unlike small songbirds, which are essentially spoon-fed, soft insects until the day they flutter out of the nest, raptors must learn active, violent prey handling before they ever take to the sky.
So the nest basically becomes an avian CrossFit gym.
That's a perfect way to visualize it. As the fledging day approaches, you see them vigorously flapping, doing these little jump squats where they lift off the surface of the nest for a second. They wrestle with heavy sticks, they wrestle with each other. It's an intense combination of physical exercise and behavioral experimentation.
They are building the muscle memory for survival, because eventually all that grueling CrossFit practice on the nest has to translate into the real world.
Yes.
That brings us to the fledge.
The fledge typically happens around 6 to 7 weeks of age. And because of all that rigorous gym time on the nest, a red-tailed hawk's first flight is usually quite impressive.
It's not a clumsy, crashy hop to the ground.
No, it is often a sustained, controlled glide to a nearby tree.
That 6 to 7 week mark isn't just a calendar date. It is the culmination of weeks of obsessive strength training. They don't just fall out of the tree, they launch.
Exactly.
But the trigger for that very first flight is heavily debated among ornithologists, isn't it? The text mentions that parents will sometimes arrive with food, but intentionally hold it just out of reach of the nest.
Yeah, there is a very fun scientific debate here about intent.
Yeah.
Some researchers look at that behavior and interpret it as deliberate parental instruction, essentially a bribe.
A bribe.
Right. The parent is creating an incentive structure, like, if you want this meal, you have to cross this 5-foot gap of empty air to get it.
Come and get it.
Exactly. But other researchers argue against assigning that level of deliberate pedagogical intent to the parents.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They suggest the mechanism is much simpler. The parent is just incredibly reluctant to land on a nest crowded with large, aggressive, hungry teenagers equipped with razor-sharp talons.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Right. So the parent hovers safely just out of reach, and the young hawk's flight is simply an innate, desperate reflex to grab the food.
A hungry leap of faith.
Exactly. But as the text points out, the distinction matters less in practice than in theory. Whether it's a calculated bribe or a reflex to grabbing a meal, the young hawk flies. Food is the ultimate motivator.
But getting out of the nest is only step one. The humbling reality of actually hunting for themselves in the wild is a totally different story.
Oh, absolutely.
The source describes their early independent hunting attempts as basically embarrassing.
They are deeply inefficient at the beginning.
They have the instinct, they have the trajectory, but the execution is terrible.
Yeah?
The text says their approach is overly steep, they deploy their talons too early or too late, and when they miss, they crash into the brush in a completely undignified way.
And the field statistics back that up. A naive juvenile hawk only succeeds in making a kill about 1 in 10 times.
Ouch.
Contrast that with an experienced adult who succeeds roughly 1 in 3 times.
That is a massive gap in competence. Which makes me wonder, if I'm watching a hawk awkwardly miss a mouse in a field, how can I know for sure if I'm watching a struggling rookie just out of the nest or an adult just having a bad day?
The ultimate visual marker is actually the tail.
Oh.
We call them red-tailed hawks, but they don't actually get that iconic brick red tail until their first major molt, which happens at about 1 year of age.
Wait, really? The defining feature isn't even there for the first year?
Nope. For their entire first year of life, including those crucial first months of learning to hunt and survive, young hawks have brown-barred tails.
Oh, wow.
So if you see a large hawk with a brown-banded tail making a slightly clumsy stoop into a roadside ditch, you are watching a first-year rookie trying to figure out how the physics of the world works.
I love that. Well, I have to assume that once the kids are finally out of the nest, failing in hunting, but at least out of the house, the mom abandons that giant stick pile and takes a well-deserved vacation somewhere else.
You'd think so, but no, she stays right on her territory.
Really?
Yeah. The parents continue to provision the young for a few weeks, slowly tapering off the food deliveries to force the juveniles into independence. And once the juveniles finally disperse to find their own territories in late summer, the mother simply remains.
She just lets the nest weather the autumn storms and the winter snows.
She and her mate stay through the winter, and then in late February, she will start pressing fresh sticks into the lock again. The cycle, patient and incredibly thorough, begins all over again.
This has completely changed how I look at these birds.
Me too.
Before we wrap up, I want to pull out some very practical takeaways for you listening, straight from the field notes in the text. First, if you want to spot these hawks setting up their territories, late winter is your best bet. Look up in February and March for their quiet, undulating courtship flights above the bare tree lines.
And remember the greenery mystery. Scan the upper canopy of tall trees at the woodland edge, or even the utility towers. If you see a massive stick platform with fresh green sprigs tucked into the rim, you have found an active nest.
But, and this is a massive rule, the source is very clear, observe from at least 150 feet away. Do not linger directly under the tree.
Yeah, that's crucial.
They are tolerant of human infrastructure, but if you stress them out during that crucial incubation phase we talked about, they will abandon the nest entirely.
Which would be tragic.
Exactly. If you really want a front row seat to see that hilarious week 5 whole prey education where the mom just drops the food and stares at them while they wrestle it, look up a red-tailed hawk nest cam online.
Oh, those are great.
There are tons of them run by wildlife organizations that let you watch the avian crossfit up close.
And if we connect all of this to the bigger picture, the red-tailed hawk really challenges our definition of what is remarkable in nature. True mastery isn't always flashy or dramatic like a diving falcon. And it isn't deeply mysterious like a hooting owl in a blizzard. Sometimes biological mastery is simply quiet, adaptable thoroughness hiding in plain sight. It's the sheer competence of being thoroughly prepared year after year, regardless of what the environment throws at you.
I love that. And it leaves me with a final thought I want you to ponder.
Yeah.
We talked about how adaptable they are, how they use our HVAC systems and our transmission towers to build their massive nests.
Yeah.
We clear forests and build sprawling open highways lined with utility poles, which perfectly mimic the clear sight lines they need for their Persian weight hunting strategy. It makes you wonder, as we pave over the country and put up millions of poles, are we accidentally terraforming the continent into a red-tailed hawk paradise? We might be engineering the perfect environment for their continued evolution without even knowing it.
It's a fascinating perspective. We think we are building for ourselves, but they are the ones reaping the architectural benefits.
The ultimate silent partners in our urban sprawl. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. See you next time.